So for today, we're going to talk about some weather phenomenon referred to as El Nino and La Nina. These are caused by changes in ocean temperatures that then alter the flow of currents and weather patterns across the globe. After we're done with notes, you'll have time to start on a lab looking at sea surface temperatures and applying those to determine whether or not El Nino events are occurring in a data set. But let's get started with our notes first, all the way back up here to the top. So El Nino and La Nina are sometimes also referred to as the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And both of these occur in the Central Pacific Ocean. So they're going to start, so here we are, here's Texas. They are down here, and we're going to see them near the equator along the western part of the Pacific Ocean, closer to things like Australia. Is where we're going to be looking for changes in the surface temperature of the Pacific Ocean. And this is commonly measured by satellites, but slight changes of just a ½ degree Celsius change weather patterns across the globe. El Nino is defined as having sea surface temperatures that are ½ degree warmer. La Nina, those sea surface temperatures are going to be ½ degree colder. These occur irregularly, so they sort of cycle between being warm to normal to being cold. And this pendulum swings back and forth. Sometimes it swings quickly, sometimes it swings a little bit more slowly. But it seems to go from one end to the other between every 2 to 7 years, so still a rather broad range. So before we look at what El Nino and La Nina do, let's look at normal first. Under normal conditions, our winds, which are driven by warm surface in conjunction with warm surface currents, go from the east. So here we've got the coast of South America and Central America, westward toward the South Pacific, so Indonesia and Australia. So we've got our buildup of warm water in the Eastern Pacific. Because our winds are blowing away from the South American continent, we're getting upwelling. So there's a large deal of upwelling, that cold, nutrient-rich water, along the coast of South America. So we talked about upwelling yesterday. You saw the demonstration. When it's in El Nino, things are hotter. So here we had just a small little circle of hot water. In an El Nino event, there is more hot water. So much warm water that it switches the directions of our currents. And now winds are going to blow from the west towards the east. This brings with it heavy rains to South and Central America. It even makes our winters a little bit warmer. These events tend to be more noticeable during the winter season. Upwelling gets reduced. This event was described El Nino, meaning the boy, because Peruvian fishermen first noticed it around Christmas time. And they saw a big decline in the amount of fish that they were catching because it limits upwelling. And without upwelling, there's less biological productivity. This rainfall then also moves, so we're getting a bunch of rain over here, less rain over by Australia, giving Australia and the South Pacific drier than normal conditions, lots of wildfires. This past winter, we were coming off of an El Nino, And in December and January, Australia was experiencing some of the worst wildfires that have ever been recorded there. And then COVID happened and everybody seemed to forget. Those fires went away from the news. But there are areas of Australia that were burning for 3 months. As far as effects on weather in the United States, so that all this rainfall that gets brought over also brings us some extra rainfall. There's going to be less hurricane activity though because of changes in wind shear. Hurricanes need low wind shear with those changes of winds, and there's high wind shear and more precipitation in the southern United States. Opposite is La Nina. This is when it's colder, so our little hot water spot here is even smaller than normal. Winds blow in their normal direction, going from the west, or from the east to the west. However, they blow much stronger than normal, producing lots and lots of upwelling, so there's even more productivity then. As far as in the United States, it's going to be drier during the winter time because now all that water has been pushed far over. And sometimes that rainfall becomes so heavy that the South Pacific and Australia experience flooding. Now, because of these large-scale impacts on our weather, and because of things like fishing with the economy and hurricanes, which can cause lots of damage, the status of El Nino and La Nina is monitored by the NOAA and the National Weather Service. So currently, we are in a La Nina. Sea surface temperatures are slightly below average. And because of that, if we look at our seasonal outlook, we're expecting our winter to be slightly warmer than average. And this is through the next couple months, and drier. And this lack of precipitation over the winter is bad news for us, especially in the summer, because typically our winter rainfall is what refills the Edwards Aquifer. And so when we're lacking that, it puts us at higher risk for having to go into a drought and water restrictions come the spring and summertime. Any questions? In our lab today, and I'll pull that up here in a minute, is you'll be looking at maps showing water temperature to determine if El Nino events are happening. So let me get Schoology open, and we'll take a look at your lab. So we have our lab here investigating El Nino. The videos don't want to work, but our lab handout is attached down here at the bottom for you to open up and make yourself a copy. I'll give you a minute to do that, and then we'll look at our instructions. So in our lab, we're going to be looking at sea surface temperatures through graphs. And so we've got a link here to our lab. And we'll have to click Launch Activity. For today, you're going to go through the introduction. So you'll read some information. And then Level 1, or Part 1. And it's going to give you information and some videos to watch. Tomorrow we'll have time to work on parts 2, 3, and 4, and this will be due on Friday. The part 5 will be optional. It's a way to earn some extra credit if you choose to do part 5.